Hello and welcome to the FanDuel Punch-Out. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Spencer Limbach at Spencer_JL, Twitter. And we're here talking about tonight's slate. You got another one of those little weird couple game slates depending on your site early. GPP only, obviously, with just a few games starting. I think it's at, 335, something like that, 340.
Yeah.
But either way, we're just talking about the game starting at 7:05 for tonight. And much like last night, some big names on the mound tonight, but nobody that you feel great about. A couple guys paid off really well last night. Sale and Arrieta, of course, were the top options, and they were good. But now tonight, you've got some more interesting decisions to make. You've got Matt Harvey as the most expensive pitcher here, $10,300 against the Cubs, who obviously strike out more than any other team. Actually, they might be a little bit below. They might be number 2 now, behind Houston. Either way, one of the highest strikeout rates against righties on the year, and Matt Harvey over his last 2 starts hasn't been striking out a lot of batters. Only 7 combined over 13 innings against Washington and Philly. Very, very marginal favorite here against Jason Hamels. So he looks like your top option. But you and I were talking about it before the show. He seems like your safest way to go. But, I mean, you don't love paying over $10K for him tonight.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. I mean, it looks like a night where you want to diversify some pitching more so than other nights. I usually go 70-80% on one pitcher and then maybe 30-20% on another just to kind of cover my risk and everything. But it looks like I could trot out maybe 3 different pitchers in cash games and just hope the bats carry me. Matt Harvey, yes, he's probably the safest. He could get to that strikeout upside. We haven't seen it lately, but the wind's blowing in at Wrigley. The Cubs, when they don't crush the ball, they strike out. They're one of those teams, kind of like the Astros. We mentioned earlier before the show that Harvey hasn't been very good against power-hitting lefties. So if he can work around Rizzo, then maybe he has a chance to do some damage against this lineup. The question is he worth 10K?
Yeah.
Maybe because there's not a whole lot of opportunity cost. I'll definitely have some exposure, but I'm not going to go all in.
Yeah, and you like the fact that he doesn't strike anyone out. Or, I'm sorry, he doesn't strike anyone out. He doesn't walk anyone. And the Cubs actually walk one of the highest rates among teams against righties. But that's not a concern with Matt Harvey. So you figure if he does make a mistake to a guy like Rizzo, probably not going to be a whole lot of guys on. Maybe a solo shot. Shouldn't hurt you too much. But then you look at the other side of this game, and Jason Hamels pretty interesting too at 8,500. Obviously, he's a marginal underdog. But he's been putting up the kind of numbers that you expect Matt Harvey to be putting up. I mean, 8 Ks, only 4 the game before that, but then 7s, 5, 6. I mean, he's a guy that's pitching really well. He's not giving up a lot of base runners. Has a similar walk rate to Harvey. Obviously, a little bit lower of a strikeout rate. But if you look at his numbers just as a whole right now, I mean, really, really similar to Matt Harvey for $1,800 less.
Yeah, I like him as probably a tournament option tonight just because you don't really know if they're going to get the win or not, and the win's just so important on FanDuel. My number 2 pitcher that I'm looking at, and a lot of people are probably looking at, is Francisco Liriano.
Yep.
You're always a little bit leery, no pun intended, of him anytime he takes the mound because he could just blow up, especially in a hitter-friendly park like Philly. But Vegas really likes him tonight. The Phillies have obviously one of the lowest totals, as they do seemingly on a night-to-night basis. They don't have many right-handers to give him problems. So I think he can navigate this lineup pretty well, posted solid line, and I think you can put him in your cash games if you want to dip down from Harvey.
Yeah, I'm completely with you there. I think he's in a fine spot. I mean, 7 or more strikeouts in all but 1 start this year. Even last game, he got hit a little bit by St. Louis, but with 10K, still paid it off. I mean, he's had 11 or more fantasy points on FanDuel every game. So he's probably been top 5 most consistent pitchers in the game so far this year. So You got to like that. But like you said, walk rate concerns you a little bit. Certainly a lot going in his favor, but definitely not a slam dunk pick. Elsewhere, there's some interesting tournament options. No one else I'm really looking at in cash games. Jimmy Nelson's the guy that's got some nice upside at $6,900 against the White Sox. Carlos Frias is a guy that we talked about a little bit. We know that Miami, one of the worst in the league against right-handed pitching. Outside of Giancarlo Stanton, who, by the way, if you didn't see it, hit one out of the entire stadium last night in the first inning. I mean, it was like you see everyone in the bleachers just waiting for the ball, and it just never comes. Ridiculous. But either way, Frias, he's a guy who strikes out a lot of batters. I mean, he's a flamethrower, but you don't expect that he's going to pitch deep into a game here. Yeah. So you're pretty much hoping with Frias he goes 5, maybe 6 innings tops, gets you the win, 5 or 6 Ks. But, I mean, outside of that, I mean, unless you want to go down to Raciel Iglesias at 3K and stack some tournament options, which I'll be doing a little bit. He's not going to pitch deep either, but for 3K, you can get any bat you want.
Yeah, you just hope that he goes 5 innings with the lead, gets maybe 4 strikeouts, and gets a win. I mean, then you're set for a tournament. Yep. But there's a pretty low probability that'll happen. Just want to note that for tournaments. But 3K is 3K. So, yeah. I mean, you're spending more on your first baseman than your pitcher, and he could give you some solid points. So, obviously, just a tournament option. Another tournament option, maybe Nate Carnes. We were saying before the show, line movement's actually against him, so I'm a little hesitant there, even though he was very solid in his last outing. So some caution, but keep him on your radar maybe for a tournament. He'll have a low percentage.
Yeah, and he's already faced the Yankees twice, and he was pretty good both games. Not great, but I mean adequate for 6,500 for sure. So I can see that. Outside of that, nobody I'm really looking at even in tournaments. I don't feel like dipping down any of these just bad pitchers down here.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to catcher, where unfortunately no Steven Vogt to talk about today, so that's a little depressing for me. Yasmani Grandal at $3,000, the guy that I like. He's got a matchup here against a ground ball pitcher in Jared Kozar, but we know that Grandal's got massive upside. His Dodger lineup, once again last night, crushing the ball. They're scoring a ton of runs, so especially if he's batting second, I really like him a lot tonight.
Yeah, I like him. He has been batting 6th. I mean, we don't really know what that Dodgers lineup is going to look like on a night-to-night basis. Another guy, maybe Derek Norris. I know Vegas doesn't really like the Padres tonight. They have a low total, 3.24. But Taijuan Walker's been getting hit hard. So Derek Norris, 2.9K maybe. I'd rather have Grandal, but I just kind of wanted to throw that out as a tournament spinoff. Yeah. A few more. Victor Martinez is probably the top overall catcher. Even though he can't run, if you've seen him lately. Yep. He hits a ground ball, he basically just walks back to the dugout. He can't run down the first baseline. But 3.5K against Ricky Nolasco, whose velocity has just dropped off a cliff. He's throwing like 86-mile-an-hour fastballs. So he could serve up a couple meatballs tonight. And then another pick that we have in the same range, Russell Martin, always a great GPP play against Gonzalez tonight. And he's a fly ball pitcher, so Martin could get a hold of one, could get a home run tonight. So keep him on your radar.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that call as well. He was the other guy on my list, so he's certainly a play for me. Big-time upside there. Moving on here to first base, you've got guys with big upside. If you're looking for a tournament guy with upside, we mentioned some struggles there for Matt Harvey against power lefties, so Anthony Rizzo, obviously tournament only. But he's swinging a hot bat, looking patient at the plate as well, drawing a lot of walks. You got to like that. If you believe that Edwin Encarnacion's heating up, we've seen this before. He does it for weeks, 2 weeks at a time. 3 homers now over his past 4 games. You got to be looking his way at 4K. Nice cheap price there against Miguel Gonzalez, who has always had trouble giving up the long ball throughout his career. Freddie Freeman in a good spot as well, another guy who's hot. And I know there's a Royals bat here that you like as well. So, which I guess I'm kind of giving it away. There's only one Royals bat here, but
there is 2. There's actually 2.
That's right.
I'll say them both, just for the sake of conversation. Eric Hosmer, 3.9K, great spot against a mediocre righty once again. A hitter-friendly park in Texas. So I really don't mind that there. He's been swinging a hot bat. The only problem we have is that Kansas City-Texas game has a little bit of weather, it looks like. Which it seems like this has happened like 3 times to us. We've come on this podcast, and there's weather in Texas.
Yep.
Which is strange. I don't know. Maybe there's a correlation there. I mean, we might need more data to officially label it a trend.
A little bit more of a sample size first.
It's getting close. This is getting kind of ridiculous. Yeah, we have like an 80 to 60% chance of rain, so keep an eye on that. Maybe it'll break up, and if it does, the Royals lefties, they're one of the highest projected scoring teams of the night. So you got Hosmer, maybe Morales for a tournament. He's 2.7K if you want to go someone a little cheaper, but Hosmer is someone just solid cash game play. I really like him. Otherwise, if that doesn't work out, Jose Abreu at 3.5K. I think that's a very fair price tag. He's someone that I've just been rostering just off of potential, sheer ability. He can get multiple hits. He doesn't have to home run to pay off his salary. So I like him against Jimmy Nelson. He's had his struggles in the past. Very fair price point. I'll probably have him in a lot of cash games.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, he's a guy who he's not hitting for a lot of power, but he doesn't need it to because he's getting on base, he's scoring runs. So you got to like that for him. And I'm going to throw out one more guy that I like here. Is Prince Fielder, $3,100. He's been hitting the ball well, showing a little bit of power. It's not quite coming yet back around, but I mean, the guy's hitting well over 300. He's got 3 multi-hit games his last 10. I mean, I just really like him at 3,100 against Ventura, who's also been getting hit hard here.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on here to second base, where, as always, against anyone who's not elite, I love D. Gordon in cash games at $3,800. I don't think he's a bad tournament option either with his upside. Tournament option for you, Brian Dozier against the lefty and Kyle Lobstein. Lobstein hasn't allowed a home run yet, but I'm sure you and I, since I'll be having Dozier in some tournaments, and you being a Twins fan, I'll be pretty happy if Brian Dozier is the first one to take him yard tonight.
Yeah. I mean, he could hit a home run. Long drives, gap. I think the Twins can put up some runs here against a subpar lefty, so I like that spot. Otherwise, Ian Kinsler of the same game. Detroit has the highest run total tonight, so 4.81 runs projected against Ricky Nolasco. We already mentioned his struggles, so don't hate that pick at all. Otherwise, Robinson Cano against James Shields. Most people will shy away because Shields is a bigger name. But, I mean, Cano at home. Shields, I mean, even though he throws hard, he has a great strikeout rate. He still gives up runs. And when he gets hit hard. So I like Cano tonight. I think he's going to have a lower ownership percentage than probably warranted.
Yeah, and Shields has given up 11 home runs already on the season. So obviously that rate not sustainable, but I'm with you on Cano. I like him a lot tonight at 3,400. Makes for a nice play. Howie Kendrick's a guy that hits righties well. Obviously, we already talked about the Dodger offense at 3,200. If you want to keep chasing that, I don't blame you there. Neil Walker was a big letdown last night in a great matchup. Not a route that I'm really going to take tonight. He'll be batting righty. Outside of that, if you're looking down cheap, there is really nothing outside of maybe Jace Peterson if he gets a decent lineup spot. He's been hitting the ball well. $2,300 tonight against a young pitcher. He's got 5 multi-hit games in his last 7, so I think he's your punt play if you're going cheap at second base.
Yeah, there's no one else really that I'm interested in. I'm just kind of browsing the list one more time, see if there's anyone I missed, and I don't see anyone. There just seems like there's a log jam in the 3.5K range, and that's it. Pick one of those 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've scrolled quite through it quite a few times as well. And Jimmy Paredes, I guess we'll mention as well. He's also swinging a nice hot bat too. All right, moving on here to third base, where there are some options, as usual, some big upside guys. Kyle Seager tying into the Robinson Cano thing. He's starting to get it going. A couple home runs in his last 5 games there. Alex Rodriguez has some upside as well at 3,500, but he's just not a guy that I love rostering. I don't know. Maybe it's a personal thing with him. I don't know. Manny Machado's been batting near the top of the order as well. He's swinging a nice hot bat. Option. Yeah, definitely in your tournaments. Aaron Sanchez, if you look at his numbers, 16.9% strikeout rate and a 17.6% walk rate. So maybe he gets on, scores runs. Maybe he's the one that gets to actually swing the bat. Either way, Sanchez is not in a very good spot tonight against some big bats for Baltimore.
Yeah, and I like Adam Jones for that reason too. I think some people will be off of him because he kind of was a letdown last night.
Yep.
The righty-lefty matchup against Burley, I know he was a popular pick, and he didn't come through, so I think people are just going to steer away from him. So that's kind of jumping the gun a bit back to third base. There's one guy that you didn't mention, and I'm kind of surprised you didn't. Or maybe you just don't want to look like a homer.
Oh, you're talking about Todd Frazier?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping maybe you'd throw him out there, but yeah, he's an awesome tournament play because I always talk about the Reds and I get a lot of crap for it because everyone thinks I only want to play Reds. But
I think that I like him in cash games and tournaments tonight. I think he's probably one of my favorite plays. But I just love taking righties against Eric Stoltz. That's one of my favorite matchups in baseball.
Yep. One of my favorite pastimes.
Yeah. Death taxes, take righties against Eric Stoltz.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. 6 dongs already on the year he's given up to righties, so he's definitely beatable.
In Great American, I love Todd Frazier at 3.6K. I'm probably going to have him a majority of my lineups. Otherwise, like you said, Kyle Seager, same thing with Robinson Cano. When Shields gets hit, he gets hit hard. Seager is a monster at home, so I like that pick. Mike Moustakas. If I'm not going Todd Frazier, I'm probably going Moustakas batting second against Gallardo tonight. Once again, look for weather in that game. Maybe there's an issue there, but otherwise 2.7K is just way too cheap of a price for a guy who's been producing, and he's batting second.
Yeah, and Gallardo's been struggling with lefties too, we already mentioned. So a lot of things going in his favor. I like that call a lot. Trevor Plouffe's an interesting guy as well. Hits lefties pretty well for tournaments. I'll go ahead and take your homer call there in case you were going to talk about him. But yeah, 2.9K, I like him. Outside of that, scrolling down for cheaper guys, you can scroll all day long. Nobody I like down there cheap.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, moving on here to shortstop where it's ugly. Again, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of these guys. I mean, yeah, it pretty much always sucks. I mean, you've got Tulowitzki on the road against a lefty. He was there last night again. This time he gets Hector Santiago, who is a fly ball pitcher. Maybe that plays into his strengths a little bit. But, I mean, Tulowitzki's double or bust right now, and that's about it for him. So I won't be paying for him outside of some tournaments, maybe some stacks. Andrelton Simmons has been batting second. He's interesting at 3K. His price starting to get up there. You don't love that he's more expensive now. But outside of that, a guy I've been going to quite a bit has been Alcides Escobar. Been leading off. Been hitting the ball really well. Obviously, righty-righty matchup. But multi-hit games in 4 of his last 5. You know he's going to get at-bats at the top of that order. Like you said, Vegas loves the Royals. They're expected to score a lot of runs. Escobar should be able to get himself a part of that as well, 2.6.
Yeah, he has been the default shortstop, value shortstop as of late, and I think he is once again. Obviously, we're going to have to pay attention to the weather there in Texas, but if that game goes, he'll be in every single one of my cash game lineups. Otherwise, some pivots in the same range. Maybe Segura of Milwaukee, depending on the lineup spot. They're against a lefty tonight, so I think that could promote him to the leadoff spot. It has lately. It's not a sure thing. There's still some risk there, but, I mean, he has stolen base upside. He could get a couple hits. So maybe go that route.
Yeah. He had a triple off sale last night, so
yeah,
you just need one of those.
Otherwise, Eduardo Escobar is a tournament option I like. He hits lefties a lot better than righties. He's a switch hitter himself. And I think that Twins lineup could do some damage against Lobstein. So 2.8K. Don't hate it with low opportunity cost and not many other inspiring options at shortstop.
Yeah, I like that a lot as well. He's a guy that I've played a couple times in tournaments as well. So let's move on here to the outfield where we've got Mike Trout. Oh, go ahead.
One more. I almost forgot. Matt Duffy maybe against a lefty at Houston. They've kind of been platooning him with Joe Panic. So he could bat second tonight. Check the lineup spot. If Matt Duffy is batting in the top half of that order, I don't mind punting him at minimum salary.
That's a really, really good call. He's been hitting the ball well. He had 5 RBI in his last game. So, yeah, definitely. Matt Duffy, great call there. I think he's if he really is in line of batting second, I'll be getting some cheap exposure there, min salary as well. All right, outfield here, we've got Mike Trout against Jordan Lyles. We already know everything's a good matchup for Mike Trout if you want to pay up for him. Nelson Cruz against the guy who's given up, I believe, the most home runs of anyone this season. If not, it's very close. And James Shields, he's certainly in play for your tournaments. All he did was hit a homer last time out. That's all he does is hit home runs. So a lot of things going in his favor there. Other than that, if you're paying up, I like Ryan Braun against the lefty and Jose Quintana at $4,100. He's starting to get it going a little bit. And as you know, always like Ryan Braun against lefties there. So he's certainly in play. Adam Jones, you already mentioned. He's still cheap at $3,800. And then I'll throw out another guy who's too cheap, and that's Andrew McCutchen, starting to get it going. It is Cole Hamels, so it's a tough matchup, but we know McCutchen has great career numbers against lefties, and when he gets it going, it doesn't matter the matchup. He can hit anyone.
Yeah, I think Adam Jones is probably my favorite per dollar pick, sitting at 3.8K. I love that price point, love his potential in this matchup. Otherwise, yeah, all those other options you listed I have on my list as well. Alex Gordon, 3.3K. You don't love that he's batting 6, but he produces. He produces from that role. So it's not a huge pushback on that, even though the batting order is not where you'd like it to be. A couple more I'm going to throw your way. Seth Smith, 2.4K. As we mentioned, Shields gets hit hard. Seth Smith might be in the top half of that order. Sometimes bats second against a righty, so I like that pick if you need some cheap outfielders. Otherwise, Anthony Goes and Cespedes. Like we said, the Tigers have the highest total tonight. So you're definitely going to want some exposure against Nolasco. I think Goes is obviously the safer of those. Can get on base. He has great lineup security with Miggy, Vmart, all those guys behind him. And he can steal a bag or two. So I really like Anthony Goes for cash games if you can fit him in.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I love taking the Tigers leadoff guy in my cash games. Always big-time upside there. One other guy I want to mention is Cole Calhoun at $3,100 against Jordan Lyles. We know Jordan Lyles, not a particularly good pitcher, certainly a guy that I don't mind picking on at all. And if you want to go cheap as well, you already mentioned Seth Smith. If Matt Joyce gets a decent lineup spot, I like him as well. I'm pretty big on the Angels today because I'm not a believer at all in Jordan Lyles. So I think if Matt Joyce, I think he batted 7th yesterday, which I don't like, but he did have a 3-run double. I mean, he's men's salary, so he's a filler. I would still prefer Seth Smith there, but I think he's a good filler for your tournaments.
Yeah, I actually overlooked Cole Calhoun there. That's a good call. I think if you were originally on Alex Gordon, which I kind of am today, and that game doesn't pan out, pivoting to Cole Calhoun in cash games is a great way to go. Otherwise, a couple tournament options I'm going to throw out you real quick. Maxwell of the Giants, they're going up against the lefty tonight, so I think Maxwell should hit maybe 5th or 6th behind Posey there. Righty-lefty matchup, have to like that hitter-friendly park. So I think he's 2.7K or so, 2.8K.
2.8, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really hate that pick. Otherwise, here, I'm going to put you on the spot here with a little bit of a quiz.
Okay.
Last year, the first month of the season, who had the most RBIs in Major League Baseball?
Last year?
Through the first month.
Wow, I feel like it's going to be a really obscure name since you're putting me on the spot with that. Jeez.
I'll give you a hint.
Give me a hint, yeah. The Twins?
He played for the Twins last year, and now he doesn't.
Chris Colabello?
Yes. Chris Colabello led the league in RBIs over the first month last season. Then he did nothing, and he got sent down to AAA, maybe made 1 or 2 appearances in MLB since then. But he's on fire right now.
Yes, he is.
3 hits, 2 hits, 2 hits. He's one of those guys who just hits and streaks. His fantasy production comes in bunches, and he's on right now. And you have Gonzalez, fly ball pitcher. Maybe, I mean, Colabello has home run upside, has double upside. The Jays are going to get on base tonight. So if you want a tournament pick, I think he's a sneaky one to put in there, and he'll at least give you positive points, I believe.
Yeah, that's a really good call. He's a guy that I've been kind of sneaking into my cash games a little bit there because he's been batting 6th behind those big bats. So
yeah,
really good call there. And, yeah, I'm a little bit proud of myself for getting that one. I mean, it wasn't that hard. I guess there's not that many guys that played for the Twins and then don't. But, you know, either way. All right, that should wrap things up for us. Thanks for hanging out with us. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Check out all of our content for tonight's big slate of action at dailyfantasycafe.com. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.